How the heck are you, everybody? I am Fastidious. Welcome back to the channel. Today, in this video, we are doing a highly requested, very unique video, the 10 most overrated heroes in Watcher of Realms. And I'm not doing this alone. I am joined by the fantastic Shady, first-time guest on the channel, very prolific content creator right now in Watcher of Realms. How are you doing, my man?
Good, my man. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to do this video. I actually want to give a shout out to the viewer that suggested it, because a lot of times people suggest videos, maybe you have the same experience, and you're like, oh, that's a cool idea, but I've already done that or had an idea like that, blah, blah, blah. This was like, I guess not the craziest idea, but I had never thought of this, and I made this collab with Mango. Shout out to Mango. Top 10 worst legendaries. The top comment on this video, if I can ever make it back to the top over here, was from Dumpster Player 2700. Actually, you know, I recognize a lot of viewer comments if they comment a lot. This is someone I've seen on the channel a lot, but he said, need a top 10 overrated hero list. And I said, wow, really good idea. Who should I ask to collab? There were some suggestions, but then we got Shady, and I said, let's go get Shady. We've never done a video with Shady. So we're doing it. Are you ready, my man? This is gonna be a fun one.
Let's get it, bro. It's gonna be spicy.
It's gonna okay, guys. So you've got a Scoville meter. Turn that thing up to effing Carolina Reaper or something like that. The hottest pepper you've ever had, because we're starting spicy out of the gate. I'm kicking things off. Any predictions if I'm saying it's the spiciest one I could do?
I think it's gonna be a couple ancient heroes, maybe some lords. We're gonna see, my man.
I think I might have gone. I do have some of that, but I think I might have gone spicier with the first one. I wanted to set the tone out of the gate. I also want to take this moment before I unveil it to say, we used one of my moderators, Hawkus, to submit our 5 picks to. So we know, because he checked them, that my 5 picks are different than yours, Shady, but we don't know who the other one picked, which is pretty cool. So without further ado, this isn't in order, but one of my 5 most overrated heroes is going to be Kigiri. And before you get angry, before people riot in the streets and the comments on Discord, I want to explain myself. Is he phenomenal? Yes. Does that mean he can't be overrated? No, I think he absolutely is overrated, and that's for mainly 2 reasons. First off, he is the most awakening dependent DPS in the game without exception. The difference between an A0 Kigiri, and not an A1 and an A2, but an A3 Kigiri, which is what you need for him to be viable, putting up the crazy numbers you think of when you think of Kigiri, it's so required. That A3 is everything for this guy's kit. The way those damage boosters stack, this was definitely miscoded. Kigiri's only as strong as he is because the devs made a mistake. There's not a doubt in my mind. The fact that both of these are stackable damage boosts and they have 100% uptime once you trigger them for the remainder of whatever battle you're in is crazy. And without them, he's a fine DPS. He's got very cool mechanics. He's got a nice dispel, but I would say, I don't know where you, I'd say he's like a 5.5 out of 10 DPS with that at A0, A1, A2. What would you say about that?
I actually think he's overrated, and it's kind of crazy. We've only had his banner once, beside the pick your own banner, so twice, I guess, you could have had him. And he's on Matrix, he's usable, but he's very RNG based on the autos, so only Abyss, he's really reliable. And even in Abyss, you probably need him A3 minimum, A5, and there's been times where I've seen it A1, but I think he's overrated. He was gonna be on my list, but yeah, that's a spicy choice, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, well, I'm glad our heads are in the same spot. This is not to say he's bad. A5 Kigiri is by a mile the best Abyss DPS in the game, but that brings me to the second reason I think he's overrated. Now, depending on the age of your account, Kigiri can easily be the best character you have DPS-wise for like everything. However, once you get deeper into the game, and I mean deep into the game, but that's the lens we're viewing this through, right, Shady? He's not as OP in as many places as people think. He's great, but like you said, his autos are really annoying, very inconsistent, especially if you don't have him A5. A5 is when you guarantee that 1 in 4 chance on the strike backwards, it becomes 100% chance, right? Now he's always going to trigger the additional counter. So from this passive over here. Before that, you don't really feel it. And even once you have it, like you said, there's certain content where the timings are just never going to line up right on the auto. Like, to be honest, a lot of arena defense and absolutely in the new Matrix. So can he still dominate in those places? Absolutely. But it kind of only is Abyss 1 that he is like such a best in slot super duper star. He'll help you progress everywhere, but once you get deep into the game, he's a lot more niche than you realize. In PvP, you're only using him in single target arena. He gets no play in GVG. He's way too inconsistent. And I'm sure you know about this even better than I do. He's not even meta right now in single target arena. That's not to say he's not just off meta and not super strong, but with Sithra and the reawakening of the Chaos comps, he's definitely worse than Sun Wukong. He's not going to fit in to an off-faction thing. I mean, do you agree with this?
There's one thing to point out. Like,
Please.
with new heroes coming out, he's going to be the #1 hero reset, I think, with the reset books. And a lot of people are going to regret putting that many stones in him. But for now, I guess there's a case for that. But yeah, in Arena, I made videos on the Watcher comp because I don't have Valorant myself. And it worked crazy good, but then with the whole Sithra low BP teams coming out and defenses, it's hard to use them on autos. It's very RNG.
Absolutely. Two things before we hand it over to you and we get your first pick. Neither of us are saying he isn't amazing. He's obviously amazing. That being said, I just think he's overrated. Like, I think I'm about to redo my tier list. I think people think he's going to be top 5, and there's no way I'm putting him top 5. Probably he'll end up like top 10 or maybe just outside the top 10. He'll be still super duper high. But I like, for example, to me, Wukong is overall a much better hero. Much better might be an exaggeration, but better for sure. The final point I want to make is people wonder why I don't use Kigiri that much and I don't have Awakenings. I mean, if we actually look at it, I have an extra copy of him and I have 5 unpolished soulstones, so I could do it. But frankly, I don't feel Abyss is important enough, which is the only content he'd push me in, to justify using those soulstones and probably having to reset. Like you said, I'd rather hold out for another Kigiri banner. Maybe they do that around Christmas. But he's still awesome. Maybe just a tiny bit overrated. Who do you have as your first pick, JD?
So this one's going to be a little spicy, man. It's going to be Praetus, the Pope.
Okay. Explain yourself.
Yeah. So, honestly, he's mainly used for like BP, for endgame, and in some defenses, but with the new demon soldiers that came out, it's kind of hard to even build a viable defense. And then I also believe that the arbiters are missing another lord like the other factions. So I personally believe the next 1 or 2 lords, ancient exclusives, are going to be an arbiter. And the way this game is going, each lord that comes out is like part of the current meta. And I think the next arbiter lord might just take a spot, you know, in that faction. And in Arena, he's honestly just used as a lord lead. He doesn't really do that much damage. He's always placed last, so he can honestly just be kept at A0. And a lot of people overhype him to be like A5, you know, get the higher awakenings and spend all their shards when he comes around, and also spend their soul stones on him. So I just think he's kind of overrated.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting transition from Kigiri to Praetus because they're such different heroes, but in one way they're pretty similar. Like, you're predicting Kigiri could be the next big reset hero, whereas Praetus, at least for endgame players, that's what he's been over the past few months. Because yeah, outside of BP building, right, for Demon Soldier affiliation, you really don't need his awakenings. One thing I've been beating the drum on since he came to the game is his A1's the only awakening you need, and even still, do you need it nowadays when you might not use him as a placement hero as much? His big value does come from him being the only legendary lord, so he's still very prevalent leading those comps in different PvP modes. But like you said, we're so due. Right? We have 2 factions, I was showing them off, that just got Ezerith to the Cultists and Nastya to the Esotericists. They now have 3 lords. Every other faction has 2, and then it's just the Arbiters by themselves as a solo legendary lord faction. And there's no way when the time comes, which I think we both think is coming soon, that when they do it, it's going to be an Elder kind of guy or a Demi, right? It has to be a home run. It has to be someone on the level, at least of like an Ezerith, I'd say, if not like an Ingrid. So I think it's a really good shout. And I do think he's, for some people, very properly rated or even underrated because he's so good for progression, just phenomenal. I don't think you can overstate it. However, we've reached a point in the game where I think you outgrow him. So any final thoughts? I think that's a really good pick.
Everything you pointed out is perfect. Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Shall we go to the next? Here I've got Boreas. Maybe the least spicy on my list, but definitely a super strong hero. Fun fact, Shady, my most pulled hero of all time. I've pulled him 13 times.
Oh, I know.
You know, yeah. I'm working on, if I could have multiple A5s, I'd be working on my third copy right now because I pulled 6 copies twice and then another one. We got Boreas over here. Boreas very, very infamously is like the only fully nerfed character in the history of this game that happened, I believe, end of January or beginning of February 2024. He is still really strong. He recently got an exclusive artifact that definitely brought him to a new level. He's got a very good kit, frankly, and I'm curious if you agree. We don't need to spend as much time in this one. It's just, there's so many good mages right now. Like when he first came in, he was on a new level, and it was like him and Praetus, and then they nerfed him, and then he still was so good because the kit was so unique. But now they've buffed Zealous, they've buffed Beatrix, Valise just came in. I would, in almost all content, use those 3 over him. It's for 2 main reasons. They bring a lot more debuffing outside of just crowd control, I guess outside of Beatrix, but she's so unique with her summons. And then the second, speaking of summons, they're all part of like the summoner cultist meta, which I do think for strictly mages and AoE is superior to Esotericists right now. I think what it takes to make an amazing AoE unit in this game, be Valara, so just be the strongest thing the game's ever seen, or you need to be a really good summoner DPS, or have execution, which Valise elite, Beatrix elite, just phenomenal, right? Or you're going to be an executor like Neza or Ezerith or Virna, and he doesn't have any of that stuff. So the kit's really good, but it's predicated around freeze, which they block in a lot of content. And then the damage at this point is great, but it's not exceptional in any capacity. So you should still be happy to pull him if you're progressing, but I think you'll reach the point in the end game where like, I wouldn't even dream of using him on my GVG defense right now. Haven't used him at all in Arena. I think most people since his nerf. And then what does that leave in PvE? In content like Gear Dungeon 1, he's unusable. They coded him to be unusable. So he's just a Gear Aid 1 hero, where his real claim to fame there was good DPS, good crowd control, but most importantly, anti-heal. But now we've got Zealous, who's better, in my opinion. So I just think Boreas has reached a point where he's overrated.
Yeah, like the only place I could see him being used is GR1 if you're missing mages, and then in Matrix if you're missing the top mages. But yeah, you're right. Like he used to be meta in Arena, he used to be pretty good in GVG defenses. My boy Zealous is way better now than him.
Zealous
in
is
most content.
Yeah, I guess in one way he kind of got, they kind of nerfed Boreas with Zealous. Zealous is just a new level, I think. But yeah, if you look here, this is what we'll wrap it up. If you look at the recommended lineups, even these Esotericist teams very often are not bringing him, right? We haven't even seen him yet. You know, you've got units like Anora. A Bonded Anora is going to deal more damage, and then you can get your anti-heal from other sources, right? Demi got buffed, bring a Zealous, bring an Artemis. There's just a lot of, I think, better routes. So he's still great. Most of these guys on the list, I think, because we went for Spice, they're all still good. But yeah, a little overrated. Who do you have as your second pick, Chady?
All right, this one might be a little spicy. It's going to be Ymiret. Ymiret's on there.
So I told you before we started filming, I had one pick that I was thinking of putting on my list, but I already had 5, and I asked Hawkus if we had any overlap. This was our overlap pick. I picked him as my honorable mention, so good pick, I think.
Where do you really use him in the game beside boosting the rest of your heroes? If you just need a spot in Malrix, Valara, honestly, this messed up this guy's reputation.
100%. 100%.
He's not used in GVG defenses anymore, and in all other contents, like even GR1, you got Nizah, that's better than him. You still got Valara. Now you got Ezerith to replace him there. As an early game though, he's good, and you can still use him in Air Arena if you need some crowd control, but beside that, he's overrated. And I'm not gonna lie, I reset him right away once Valara came out.
Yeah, he's
I took some of the stones. Yeah,
I've got 3 soul stones in mind. He's the first unit I ever put unpolished soul stones in when they came out. I'm not resetting him yet because I don't feel like I have to, but he will be reset. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. He's still really good, right? It's just Valara pushed him out of all of his PvP relevance. It's kind of as simple as that. His best comps were going to be the Esotericist teams with Anora and stuff like that, where like you'd rather just slot in a Valara at this point. And then sometimes on those cultist teams way back in the day, but we've had so much cultist change that even if you are going to run GVG for cultist, you won't bring him there. So then he would kind of just be a plug and play. Maybe you squeeze him off meta into a Arbiter or a Watchguard. But then with Valara, if you have her, you're going to use him. You're going to use her over him. And then I think the biggest thing is what you said in Arena. Because that to me, that was what elevated him, because he's a great progression unit. He can help you actually in all 3 gear raids. And I think that's relevant, like through the end. He might fall off on being like a top choice in some of them, but he's functional for all 3 of them. Very interesting character. You can even use him in GD2 if you want, which is pretty cool. But the reason I think I would have not called him overrated was Arena, and now check any of the top Arena teams. I mean, it's not really his fault. It's just his kit is great. It's just not, completely, utterly broken. So I think it's hard to justify. So if you get him, be happy. But once you reach the end game, I just think he's going the route of the Ajax, who we saw that happen a few months ago, where I think that was the original, oh my God, use your reset book right now candidate, right?
I mean, another problem with him is his cost. What is his cost, like 20? Yeah. So in Arena, it's hard to place him, early. Over the other heroes you need, like DPS from like Valara and etc. But like Valara being 12 cost is just insane.
Yeah, frankly, Valara's so insanely broken, it undermines the value of a lot of other characters. Like this, if you don't have her and you don't believe us, the second you get her, like I have A0, and that was enough for her to push Ymiret and several other people out of so many different comps, because she's just a whole new level. The last thing I'll say with Ymiret also is he deals magic and physical damage, and they continue to specialize the game where like we have these modes like Abyss and Matrix where it's like that's your magic team, that's your physical team, and I think it's hurt him. It was kind of an advantage in GVG defense, and now it's kind of, I don't know, maybe he'll get a rework at some point because he is really cool. But let's go to the next one. Who do I have for you here? Drum roll. Nastya. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I can see that one because there's only one spot I can see her being used in. Maybe 2.
I think 1 or 2 actually still underselling her, but I do think a lot of people view her as though she is a Praetus tier unit, and she can be exceptional on the field, but she's not elite, top, incredible like a Soul Cadence, right? As an actual hero, not a Lord. So a lot of her use comes out as being a Lord and enabling these poison comps, which are actually kind of a niche. It's a very important niche. It's Guild Boss 1, but outside of that, you'll just use her as like an undeployable Lord because she's got a very good Lord skill. So she is really, really good, but I think a lot of people, if we were talking about this before, how are we defining overrated? And I think a lot of people consider her as like oh my God, if she's on a banner, must pull, I need her right now. But if you're especially if you're progressing and you're trying to view the broad view of your account, right? Like who do I need that's just going to elevate everything the way like an Ingrid would? She'd be the pinnacle. She's the best character in the game. But even, like I think a unit like Soul Cadence, I don't think Nastya is on that level because yes, she's going to help you more than anyone probably could in Guild Boss 1, assuming, again, this is another condition, you have the units to put next to her. But aside from that, she's just a very nice to have for a lot of content. She's not good in Arena. She's not relevant in GVG. So it's when I'm talking when you get to the later portions of the game. So she's really just an amazing single target leader, which Arbiter of Frost, for example, I checked it the other day, 100 out of 100 of the top 100 scores were Nastya-led poison comps, right? And then she's unbelievably good in Abyss 1. And then, to be frank, all Guild Boss 1 content. Outside of that, though, I just think she's a little bit more of a niche player in this game, a very dominant player in that niche, but she's not as, broadly usable as a lot of the, other super top rated legendary lords. Not to say she's not awesome, but she's just, I think her global functionality is overrated.
Yeah, I can only see her being used in Abyss, some Matrix teams if you're really missing Cyrus, and then that Mora Codex. But that's you only need her A0 to be honest.
Yeah, if you're gonna run like a numeric comp for Gear Dungeon 2, Nastya actually might be like the fastest deleter of like the boss going down the left-hand side. That's like a cool specific use. Amazing Lord for Gear Raid 1, but she's not usable in Gear Raid 1. So yeah, like what does it leave you with? It's like, you don't have Cyrus, so you're kind of screwed, so you just bring her. Or obviously Arbiter of Frost, but that's like 1 codex out of 7 or 8. To me, it's a little bit of a who cares. So she's awesome, but she's just not she's not anywhere close to like an Ingrid or even a Praetus in my opinion, or even a Valderon, you know, which I'm saying 3 of the best, but yeah, that's that. I just feel like some people rate her that high. Okay, let's move on. Who do you have as your third pick, Chady?
All right, this one's gonna be spicy. I'm gonna have Moriden, but unbonded version.
Okay, explain that.
Because the only reason that I put that there is you need Valara to have his bond, and let's be honest, not everybody has Valara, and his bond actually helps him a lot. And for early game players, you can't really use him in arena without the bond because his cost is so high. So most players early are using like Wrath as a lord, right? And they got Wukong, whatever, Kigiri, and Moriden's a nightmare, and you can't really run him early in the arena as an early game player with that high cost. And also you do need him A1 so you can regain his health. So if you're trying to use him in Malric, it's kind of tough to use him there if you don't have like Narissa, you have good healers. So he's also a limited hero, so not many people have him A1.
Yeah, I think these are good points. Like, I do think he's a little awakening dependent. It's like a similar thing to Kigiri. I'd say one difference is Kigiri's awakenings definitely boost Kigiri way more than Moriden's boost him, but they are still kind of required. I guess the pro for Moriden is he needs them less than Kigiri. Like, the damage is still good at A0. But yeah, like you said, if you think of like the 2 biggest uses of him, it's like he's very, very, very good in Malric's trial, but he kind of needs A1. And then the other big use would be for like those insane god tier performances in Abyss, for which he absolutely needs A3. And for a limited, that's hard to get. He's pretty exceptional, but is he worth soul stones? Unless you've been really lucky with a ton of them, I think for the vast majority of players, the answer is no, right? Like, I would never advise someone to soul stone him over like a Wukong, or certainly like an A1 Diao Chan, never. So I think that's I never would have thought to put him on a list like this, but I think it's a good point, right? Because he is a little limited in use, and he does really need that A1 for a lot of stuff.
That 1%, yeah.
And getting that bond skill is so freaking hard too, because I mean, who doesn't want Valara? Like,
I know, like that's another thing. You need that bond, and even in Abyss, like, kind of do need Narissa to use him because there's a way you have to place it.
True.
And the only other hero you can use is Pharisee. So,
or like maybe you could do like an A1 Draylin, you could make it work. But yeah, it's so dependent on some of the other hardest pieces to put together in the game. So really interesting pick. I like that pick a lot. Let's go to my 4th pick now. Here I've got Brokkir, which I was told by my moderators was the spiciest pick on my list. I don't know if you agree with that. I think I've got a good argument against it. Like, he's amazing. Okay. Let's get that out of the way. I think he's definitively top 3 tank. I think there's a lot of content. He's the best tank in the game. However, it's less about Brokkir and it's more about tanks. I think we've reached this point in the game that tanks were never that important, but nowadays are less important than ever. Because of gems, because of augmenting artifacts, because of tier 3 gear sets, which are so much easier to get and forge than they used to be when they were introduced, I think the need for a top tier tank outside of like a GVG defense, which personally to me is not that important, I think it's overblown. So I kind of picked him as a mascot for all defenders, all tanks, because I think in general they have become an overrated class. Not that they were ever so highly rated, but that even still, I think for progression, if you're an active player, a Rox or an Olog will get you just about as far as a Brokkir. There reaches a point where, yes, if you have him, of course you're going to use him. He's that good. But I do takeovers all the time, and I rarely touch him. If like, that's not true. If they have him, I touch him. But if they don't have him, I don't even really think about it. It doesn't cross my mind like, oh, I could have got that done if I had Brokkir. Now, that's not to say if you've got like an A5 Brokkir for GVG defenses, he isn't awesome and stuff like that. But to me, that is so shockingly specific. To me, it doesn't matter. So is he an awesome tank? Sure. But at the end of the day, the only tank to me that is like so next level and so broken right now is Cyrus. And outside of that, whether it's Brokkir, whether it's Malvira, whoever you want to say, it doesn't matter how good they are. I just think they're all overrated because I just think the game currently has a gearing and character building environment where you don't need super elite tanks for basically anything. Very few things, I should say.
So yeah, I agree. I can see your point with him being overrated. Like, the only real spot for him in the game where he's amazing is in GVG defense. Like, he's probably the best tank beside an A5 Torador, especially if you pair him up with an Ireless. It's really hard to kill him, but like you said, in Malrix, you can honestly use any other tank. You can use a Gon, you can use Cyrus, like you said, Malvira, Draylen, and I guess you can use him in Codex. But beside that, like, he's replaceable.
This all comes with the caveat. In GVG, like I said, he's amazing. He obviously is. And I think good shout out to A5 Torador too. Having these guys with like delayed death and then these full revives, or the other man A5, having Torador who's going to do it twice, it's broken, right? But if you don't care about GVG, which to your viewers is maybe shocking that some people don't care. People know it's not a big deal to me, and I know to people that aren't like actively watching YouTube videos and obsessing over stuff, they don't even interact with the game mode. So outside of that, it's like, if that's his true claim to fame, I think he's to me, he's like a luxury item. It's like, if you got him and you got him in Malvira or him in Draylen, you're cooking. But even still, like a unit like Draylen, who I guess I should shout out, the reason she's so good, and I would easily rate her as the best defender in the game, is because she's like kind of not a defender. Like, it's all the things that aren't being a tank that elevate her, in my opinion. All right, any final thoughts, or shall we move on to your fourth pick?
Let's move. Let's
get it. Who do you got for us?
All right, this one's gonna be spicy, especially with endgame players, and it's gonna be Uredin.
Oh, nice. Let's hear it.
Honestly, he is probably the most hyped ancient hero beside Valara for endgame players, because every endgame player chases him A5, right, for the BP. He's one of the highest BP non-lords in the game, and beside BP, you don't really use him. Yeah, and he was usable in Codex, he still is, but with all these new heroes coming out, he's getting replaced there in the Conqueror one. And with the new heroes coming out soon, I feel like he's gonna get overtaken soon with BPs. You even got like a hero like Beelzebub that's pushing. I see some people in my clan pushing him over 140k BP. So just wait till more heroes come out. And I already know so many people put stones into Uredin, right? Just for the BP, not even for using him in content. It's just to get a BP affiliation.
Yeah, I think this is such an interesting pick, because in a lot of ways, it depends on what kind of player you are. I think a lot of people underrate Uredin, because if you don't care about GVG and BP affiliation, you just know he's like, looks like he should be so good, the kit reads so well, and then he's just like kind of like 6.5 out of 10 unit. Whereas, but he's actually, 6.5 out of 10 is pretty freaking usable. Like, you can use him in like 124 if you want. Like, you still can use him in Conquer. However, everything you said, I do think is the correct take, because I think he is so overhyped for GVG, it's insane. I think the most underrated resource, this is overrated heroes, underrated resource is the reset book. And it makes me sick to hear that people would put a soul stone into Uredin. The same way it drives me crazy that people put polished soul stones into Iovar. It's like, I know people just are so obsessed with GVG, but it does to me feel, I guess it depends how long you want to play the game, but to me it feels like losing the forest for the trees, because like you said, better BP units eventually will always come around. Granted, in Uredin's case, it's taken like 2 years, but hyping a unit just for nothing to do with his kit, just his base stats and how well you can build them up and pump a silly arbitrary number to great heights. I think there is a silliness to it. So I think this is a really fun pick for overrated. I also think he could definitely get a buff one day. I think he'd be a good candidate for that, because I think he was like the first unit in the game besides Virna to be given an execute, but it's the most poorly executed execute that we've ever seen in the game. And then he also is the first unit in the game to ever get Potent Surge. So they tried a lot of new stuff out with him, and I think it fell flat. So I think he could use a little makeover. But right now, yes, I think he's undeployable. His one good use was Conquer, which again is just one freaking codex. Who cares? He's not even meta there right now, because it's the Valara show there, just like every piece of content is the Valara show. So he's kind of just the ultimate BP mule, and well, good pick. I like it.
You made a good point. If he does get a buff and he's usable in Matrix because of his AoE and he has a cultist affiliation, he'll be a top 5 hero in Matrix, because he has the AoE, good BP, so people will actually invest in this hero. Doesn't matter early, mid game, late game.
That's such a good shout, because I think you think of him as a chaotic, but he is a cultist unit. So especially if they could give him a summon, or they give him something that's scaling off of hitting crowd controlled units. If they could make, basically what it is his ultimate is takes so long. Like getting off a Potent Surge, which you need to do for him to be relevant, is 1600 cost. He's not a unit like Valderon where like the Potent Surge is nice, but you don't need it. With him, you really do need it. It's so clunky. He's so slow. He builds Rage very, very slowly as well with his 3.5 second attack interval. If they could give him like a 2.6 second attack interval, give him a slightly better Cultist synergy, he could be like the Ezerith on the other side of wherever you put him. Yeah, that's a really, that's good.
Yeah, and if people without Valara, if this guy gets a buff, they'll be happy, right? Because they'll be, okay, I don't need Valara. Maybe I have a Uredin to use.
Really good. So, yeah, and he's got Execute, which is so powerful in Matrix. So, yeah, love that. That's really good. Really smart. I like that. Okay, my final pick. This is a pretty fun one. We actually just mentioned him. We got Iovar. Yeah, so good to have him and Uredin next to each other.
Baby.
Okay, so let's talk about what Iovar is so good at. He's so much better than Araka as a Lord. Like, so much better. It's so noteworthy. So that's a plus. And he is the #1 BP unit in the game, right? So I want to get that out of the way. I know people are going to get angry about this. That's why I put him last. However, again, I think they fumbled this kit. He's fine. He's like a fine burst marksman. But compared even just to like the other Piercer marksman, I mean, to me, it feels like night and day. He's still on a vastly inferior level, and he's the ancient exclusive Lord. He's still so much worse than Silas, so much worse than Hex. I mean, now with Sithra in the game, I mean, that's what Iovar should have been, is the way Sithra does the burst through her summons. And I haven't even mentioned frickin' Lady Alex, who is about 10 million times better than him. So he's an insane Lord, tons of BP, which we all know how I feel about BP at this point. I made the point with Uredin. So I'm acknowledging those two things, but outside of that, he is like a pretty okay marksman. And I think for the amount of hype this guy gets, and I know it's mostly because of GVG stuff and because Araka is so weak in comparison to him, but the amount of hype he gets, the fact that he is like very often not even deployed, or when you do deploy him, it's like your last deploy and it feels somewhat irrelevant, or he's like for that one Sithra tile now, he's like the worst version of that in high level Gear 8-3. To me, it is just not enough. I mean, there's no better example than like Furious Torrent. I know Furious Torrent, you want loads of AoE, but you have units like a Silas or a Sithra who can just unload on the boss in the middle, or a Sargok, and actually do something, and he just can't. He's like tickling the boss when he's trying to get that direct damage. So I just think he's really good, but as an actual deployable unit, the damage really leaves so much to be desired.
Well, I agree. Like, he's mainly there for this being a Lord, right? He's better than Araka, but dude, he's used in most codexes as a Lord just because he's better than Araka. He's used in GVG defenses. I mean, his main use is just the BP, right? He has the highest Lord BP affiliation. So for endgame players, he's the most sought out, and a lot of people use the stones on him. But if you're just talking about pure damage, yeah, he's not the craziest, but he is used everywhere. You can even use him in Air Arena, right?
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think he's overrated in terms of how much people are using him. I just think because people use him so much, he's thought to be so good where he's just needed. And I think there's a difference between that, you know, like it's just the piercers are so insanely strong, especially once you get Lady Alex. It's such a ridiculously good faction, and you need a Lord, and obviously he's the best of these four by a lot. But that being said, I mean, we talk about those awakenings, you're going to do them for BP, but what do they actually give you? This one's pretty good on the A1 to get swords back faster, but that doesn't lead to as much damage as you think. This one's what it always is. 5 seconds for Victorious Pursuit is nothing. And then at A5, one time he gets 12 swords, like one additional burst. Like, there's just, it's to me, the kit is so mid. I wish it was better. I do. I wish the amount he was used corresponded to his usability as a hero, you know?
I agree there. That was what I was trying to get to, is like, he is usable everywhere, but his actual kit and him as a hero is overrated. And honestly, he's probably a top 3 hero I like personally, like aesthetic wise.
Totally.
He's pretty sick, bro. When he first came out, I was like, oh my God, I need this guy on my account.
Yeah, when he first came out, he was like my favorite hero in the game, I think. And he's good enough for so many things, but he just doesn't, like, as a unit, excel in that much.
Yeah, and also that video they put out for him, he didn't have a video when he first came out. Good. That video was pretty sick. He's fighting Valderon, right?
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
I like when it's like, it feels like intimate, you know, it's just like one-on-one.
Yeah,
it's sick.
Yeah, 100%.
It's badass. Okay, so there's some spice. Who do you have here as your number 5 pick?
You know, bro, I was gonna go with somebody pretty mid, but since you went to Iovar, I'm gonna go spicy. And speaking of Valderon, I'm gonna put him there.
Wow, that is spicy. Let's get into it.
And so, GVG wise, he's only used with high awakenings on a defense. His BP is not the highest compared to other lords. You need him pretty good awakened to be used in arena, and even when you do have that, you have to have Sithra or Sargak or Ardea, and those have to be pretty good awakened to even be used. And if you are missing any of those, you might as well just go and run like an Ingrid with a Wukong Kigiri, who have 2 limited heroes that most people have, and have stones in. And Valderon's single target damage isn't the craziest compared to other single target damage, and in Malric, I guess he's really good, but again, you need him high awakened, and you need chaotic units with him. I think he's this, to be able to use him the right way, you need some good awakens, and you also need the other heroes with him, and they're all ancient exclusive.
I think it's a spicy pick. I didn't have him like honorable mention, but he's someone I considered. And yeah, the big thing for me is I think he's arguably overrated because he's such an insane progression unit. And let us know in the comments, especially if you made it to the end of the video, if you're the kind of person that pulls him like 50 days into the game or less. It's crazy. Like the amount of takeovers I do, and they just use it's like, because he's a one-man faction, like for progression. You can just use him for anything. Like you could run a guild boss team where it's like Piercers or Infernal or Esotericists, and then like just Valderon and a bunch of supports. Like it doesn't matter, right? So he's the hardest carry for that. But then I do think you're right? Like for him to excel in the end game, he needs A3. Like he really does. At the very least, you need A1 in arena or you might fall behind. I have an A0 and I encounter this all the time. My gear is at least as good or better than many of the teams I come across till I'm getting towards Apex, but I never even make it the whole way because I have an A0 Valderon. So I usually am always sitting in like that 2000 and 2100 range unless I really push hard. And yeah, there's a clunkiness to him, and there's like a need to have those awakenings. And like you said, because he's not so crazy for BP, a lot of high-end PvP players might be hesitant to put soulstones into him because you're not getting that extra BP return, right?
Yeah, I know a lot of endgame players that have actually reset him because they put so much into him early, and then they actually end up putting it into other lords. And I just wish he was better at like Guild Boss and Abyss, because I mean he's just cool looking, and as a single target I wish he was better at that. I just think it's just very dependent on the heroes around them.
I think part of it that you're kind of getting at is heroes need him, but he doesn't need those heroes in the same way, where it's like the content he could excel in would be like single target content, but a lot of the units you're going to bring for that boss content would not be from Chaos because they're going to die. So like he can keep himself alive, but like a Sithra or a Sargak would die, right? So our Ardea for certain content, because she's basically a single target, even though because her AoE is so strong. Like I do think there is a disconnect there where he could have these extra potentials unlocked in like an Abyss, but it is kind of weird. Like who are you going to put next to him? Because a lot of those other units would fail in that kind of like barrage of damage you take in said content, right?
Yeah, 1%. I think that's a spicy one though.
That is a very spicy one to end on. I think we had a lot of spice in here, right? We had 1, 2, 3, 4 different ancient exclusive legendary lords, some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Let us know your guys' thoughts in the comments. I'm sure we've picked many people's favorite characters in the game to put on this list. If you have any other suggestions, obviously all 10 of these units are very good. I'd say the only bad, like potentially like not good unit for use would be Uredin, but then he's like the best non-lord for BP in the game. So all these guys are incredibly useful. It's just in some way or another, we both find them to be overrated. So let us know who you guys are angry about, and if you have any other suggestions that are even spicier for being overrated in Wancho Realms. Any final thoughts, Chady? Thank you so much for joining me today.
I appreciate you, man, for having me. I love this video. It was pretty sick, spicy list. And I also want to congratulate you on your grind, bro. I was watching you when you first started out, and you're doing crazy work, my man. Good job.
I appreciate it, and I respect the grind you're putting together now. When did you start making your videos?
I started about a month and a half ago. I started actually putting time into it. Had the face cam on, and I started actually putting out content to help people. Before that, I was just like uploading like summon videos without face cam, without audio, nothing. So I just recently started grinding on it. So it's a progress.
I can tell, man. I mean, the channel's awesome. Everyone should go check it out. I'll have the link in the description, in the top pin comment. A month and a half kind of checks out, because I feel like a month ago, 1 week I got sent like 5 of your videos and people are like, do you know this guy? Have you seen this? And it's like, that's what happens. So when people are always asking me like, how do you get it going on YouTube? Just start doing it, right? So you were doing random videos, but then you're like, I'm gonna do it. And once you know it, I mean, you picked up a couple thousand subscribers in a month. So crazy stuff. Guys, tune into Chady, link in the description, top and comment. Let us know your thoughts on the list. Thank you so much for joining me, man. I appreciate it. Thanks to you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my channel too. Share with your mother, and we'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.